Okay, today I'll walk you through the data engineering demo, what data engineering is used, what are the tools and technologies we need to know, and what is our daily routine looks like, and how will be the job opportunities. So this will be our agenda for today. So let us see first the data engineering. The role is data engineering. The course whatever we are covering, that is for data engineering. So it all deals with the data. So data, it is a very vast aspect. When I say just the word data, it is a very vast aspect. So we can do anything with the data. But here our point of view or what data engineering does is, so we should make that data meaningful, and that should be consumed by analytics or to build some Power BI reports, or to build some Power BI reports, or to make the business decisions. So that is the point of view for the data engineering. So let us take some example. Amazon website. Everybody knows that e-commerce Amazon website where we place our orders. Uh, so lot of data will be generated whenever a person places an order. Lot of data is generated. So we have two points of view. Like one is for the customer and one is for the seller. So from the customer's point of view, they have to know which is the good product based on the ratings, or based on the cost. Based on different aspects, customer will decide which product to buy. Similarly, for the sellers, it is important for them to know which product is being sold more. I mean, in which seasons, what type of product is being sold more. That kind of information is required for sellers to improve their business, and for the customers to benefit, they have to know what kind of rating. I mean, the rating greater than 4, or some good reviews by the customers, that will help the customers. So we have to build the data in different aspects. So here we have to, so data engineering, it deals with data which helps users. It might be any users, it might be business users, or the customers or the sellers, anybody. From the business aspect, it can be anybody, which helps to make the business decisions, which helps to make business improvement strategies. Okay, even after we prepare that data, there is a lot to do, but that is not our part. But we have to make our data ready. So whenever we buy a product in the Amazon website, a lot of data is generated. Like for a, let us say if a person has brought a mobile phone, so customer ID will be generated, product ID will be generated, the cost at the time at which they have brought, and the product price. So there will be many aspects, or many lot of volume of data is generated. So all of that is not required for us for our business. We have to understand what is important and what is not important, and make it clean and ready for the use. So that is what we do it here. Okay, so how do we get that data? Amazon, it is having a lot of data. Flipkart is also having a lot of data. Every website, they have their own data, lot of data. So we have to clean that data, which means that we have to get it from somewhere. Mhm. We have to get that data from somewhere. So there will be different sources of the data. The data might be coming from a database. Let us say Amazon is using the Oracle database to log their transactions, to log their customers. If a transaction is happened, let us say the customer has brought a product, it has to be immediately entered into the database. So that is not our part. That entering, that capturing, all will be done by another team. That is not our part. Our part starts where the data starts extracting. We have to pull that data and make some use of that. So that is where our job starts. So these sources, they might track that data in any database. If it is a huge customer based, or if it is a huge company, big company, they have lots of data, then they will go for databases. So these databases might be Oracle DB. Most of the times it will be Oracle DB, because that is a transactional database, like for used for banking applications, online shopping applications, all of that. So the database would be Oracle database. So other than that, if we have some small companies, very small companies, they'll be providing the data in Excel sheets maybe. They will be providing in Excel sheets, or they will be providing the files on the emails, or they will be sharing the files in a secure folder. It might be SFTP. So like this, depending on the organization, there will be n number of sources. We don't know whatever it is. Whenever we join the organization, they will tell us whatever the sources are for their business. So generally, these will be the most frequently used. Apart from this, there will be something called API. Okay, so these are the different sources from where we get the data. This is the source. From this source, we have to pull that data by using some tools and technologies. If it is some small data like 100 rows or 1000 rows, we can just go to directly Excel and filter out what is required. But in business, I mean real-time business, the data will not be that much small. It will be millions and millions of rows with hundreds and thousands of columns inside that. So it will be very big. It is not possible with Excel to do that. That is why all these tools and technologies has come into picture for processing the data. Okay. So these are the different sources. Let us assume that Amazon will be our website, who is our client. Let us assume that. So they will be providing the data in any of these sources. So there will be multiple sources also for the single business. There will be multiple sources. Like electronics might be coming from APIs, or the clothing might be coming from SFTP, or another kind of data might be coming from emails. So even for the same organization, same business, the data might be multiple sources. Okay. So this source has to be extracted. The data has to be extracted. Okay. This extraction has to be done with some tools and technologies. So that is where Python comes in. Okay. For extraction purpose, we use Python. Or if it is a small volume of data, we use Python. If it is a big volume of data, we use PySpark. PySpark is for big data processing. Okay, that is extraction. Now the data is extracted, the raw data, however it is there in the source, it will be extracted the same without any modifications. Okay, this is extracted. Now the extracted data has to be cleaned. This cleaning we call it as transformation. Okay, this cleaning we call it as transformation. So with what tools and technologies we do the transformation? So again, using Python pandas. So pandas is one of the libraries in Python. So that is where we can, what we can use Python pandas. If for small volume of data, if it is a big volume of data, we can use PySpark again. PySpark. So with this, we can do transformations. Transformations in the sense, some cleaning the data, converting to proper data types. Let us say in the Amazon website, we have the product ID as 100. That 100 belongs to some mobile phone. The price of that is, let us say, 50,000. Okay, the number of units brought are 2 units. 2 mobile phones brought with this price, let us assume. So this is a price column. It still has a comma in between. So whenever we are reading it to a database or reading it with any programming language, it understands it as a string. So we have to properly convert that. So remove the commas or the dollars. Sometimes what will they say? Here rupees 100, sorry, rupees 50,000 or dollar 50,000. So the raw data, it can be in any formats. So irrespective of the formats, we have to convert it into proper numeric column. So that is one of the examples. Similarly, there will be dates. There will be like purchase date. Somebody will be sending a month, year, and a date. Let me write today's date. Somebody will be sending like this, and some other people will be sending month first, year next, month next, date first, month next, and year last. So they will be following different formats. So we have to make everything into the consistent format so that uh, will our data will be more making more sense out of it. Okay. So in the first row, the middle column, we might assume it as month or date. We don't know because 6 and 3 both are valid for month and both are valid for the date. This is here also 3 and 6. What is the month? What is the year? We don't know. So in order to avoid these confusions, we do make some transformations. That is what we do in this uh, transformation step. That we can do it with Python, Pandas, PySpark, or using the cloud technologies also. I'll tell that later. That cloud technologies. Now the extraction is done. The transformation, only the basic cleaning is done. Only the basic cleaning like converting to proper data types and converting to any renaming the columns. If there are any spaces in between the columns or you want to make that column names generic, you can rename that. So that is what we do in the transformations. Okay. Don't think, sorry, column names you might may able, I think you may or may not understand, but let me tell you that it is a header of a Excel file. Okay. Header of the Excel file, the names might not be consistent, so we have to make them consistent. So for now, understand it as header of the Excel file. The columns are like headers of the Excel file. Okay, now comes the loading. So this extraction is done, transformation is done. We have to load it into some database again. So again, we have to load it into database. Loading to database or data warehouse. So for now, understand both the data warehouse and database as the same. It is like a go down where all the goods were stored. Data warehouse is nothing but a warehouse where all the goods will be stored. Here in our case, we will be storing the data. That is why we call as data warehouse. Okay. So here also we are getting the data from database. Again, you are loading into database. What is the difference? Okay. Here, this is a transactional database. Transaction means whenever a person has brought a product or sold a product, it has to immediately reflect in the database. That is for real-time transactions. In the warehouse, that is for analytics, not for processing. So the underlying architecture, the how it performs, all will be different. We'll go in detail whenever we are covering our course. So, but for now, understand this is a transactional database. This is an analytical database. Okay, let me write it here. Analytical database. So both are different. So we'll be loading this data into our analytics database. So here just loading that is not enough. Even after loading, we have to implement the business rules. Implement business rules. Okay. So let us say if there is some product, Solly clothing, something or Solly clothing or the footwear or anything. So there is a product which is sold in Amazon. Okay. So most of the amount goes to Alan Solly and some percentage of it has to be sent to Amazon, right? So maybe 10% of the total price will be sent to Amazon. So if our client is Amazon, we are working for Amazon, we have to know for each product how much revenue is generated for us. So that type of calculations we will be doing after loading into the database. Okay. So this database, it will be most of the times it will be Snowflake. Most of the times it will be Snowflake, or we have other cloud databases as well. I'll tell you that later. Okay. So now we have done extraction using Python or PySpark, transformation again using Python or PySpark, and loading into the database or the data warehouse, which is Snowflake. And then implementing the business rules. Implementing the business rules, this will be done using SQL. Analysis, implementing the business rules, querying the data, all that can be done using the SQL language. SQL is structured query language. It is one of the tools or the technologies used for any database. In order to get data out of the database, you have to use SQL. Okay, extraction, transformation, and loading. These are the three steps. So we call it as ETL. ETL is extract, transform, and load. So in simple terms, in data engineering, we build ETL pipelines. Okay, build ETL pipelines. So this is very high level, but there is a lot of things involved in between. I'll tell you that slowly. Okay. So data engineers build ETL pipelines. That is the basic idea or what is the expectation out of the data engineers. They have to build the ETL pipelines. Okay. So now this data is extracted. We have to keep it somewhere, right? We have to store it somewhere. Just extracting is not enough. We have to place it somewhere. We have to store it somewhere and we have to transform that. After transforming also, we have to store it. So without storing it, it is not possible to do anything, right? Okay, let us do that. So that all that storage, everything comes into the cloud. Now let us slowly move into the cloud part. Okay, so the extracted data has to be stored. Raw data has to be stored And also the process data has to be stored at each level. The data has to be stored, because if something goes wrong after after some time, maybe after 1 or 2 months, we have to look at the raw data and look at the target data and identify what happened in between. So that is very important. We have to store the raw data as well as the transform data as well as the final business data. We have to store all of them. But we will expose only the business data to the analytics team. Analytics is nothing but the persons who will generate Power BI reports or the Tableau reports using our data. If any issues comes up, they will reach out to the data engineer saying, hey, this data is not looking good or it is not in correct format, something like that. They will reach out to us if they are facing any issues. We have to make that data ready for the analytics. That is our target. Okay. No, so now coming back, the extracted data has to be stored. Where it has to be stored? Let us say in olden days, not very old, or maybe some 5 or 7 years ago, whenever we have lots of photos in our mobile phone, we used to transfer it to our laptop for the PCs at our home. So once that is 500 GB, maybe our system is of capacity 500 GB or 1000 GB. If that is completed, we can remove that hard disk and buy a new hard disk to store our photos, right? So, but now we have replaced that concept completely. That buying the hard disks and storing it, we have to buy n number of hard disks if we are following that process. Now that process is no more being used. Now everybody is into the cloud. So you all might have the Gmail accounts. So and you might be aware that Google will provide 15 GB of data free. 15, sorry, not GB of data, 15 GB storage free, where you can store your files, photos, anything you can store within 15 GB without paying anything. So now if your 15 GB is completed, but still you want to back up your photos to the Google Drive, you have to pay some amount, monthly 100 rupees or 130 rupees, whatever it is, you have to pay something for that. They will provide you 100 GB of space. So you're not buying any new machines, any new laptops or any hard disk. You're not buying anything. You're just paying the Google. They will be providing you the required things. They'll provide the required storage for you, 100 GB storage, as long as you pay the amount. Here also the organizations, instead they will have lots of data. Instead of buying hundreds and hundreds of servers, they'll be just paying to the cloud provider. There are there are three types of cloud providers now. AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, Amazon Web Services, Azure, provided by the Microsoft, and Google. Google, everybody know. We call it as a GCP. GCP, Google Cloud Provider. Google Cloud Provider. This is GCP. So out of these three, most of the times, lot of organizations are now shifting to Azure. And AWS and Azure are most frequently used. GCP, very rarely I have come across the GCP users, but most of the times it will be AWS and Azure. But nowadays, very specific to the organizations are very specific to Azure. They are all moving towards Azure. Okay. So in our course, we will be covering most of the services required will be covered in Azure. So if you are familiar with any of these three clouds, at least one of them, you will be able to work with the other two services without any problem. Okay. Just the name of that will be different. The usage, the functionality, everything will remain the same. Okay. So these are the three cloud providers. So now our data coming back, our data has to be stored. Where it will be stored? It will be stored on the cloud, not on any physical servers. It has to be stored on the cloud. It might be either AWS or Azure or GCP. It can be anything. So for storage, uh, in AWS, we call it as S3. The name of the storage service is S3, which is Simple Storage Service. Or in case of Azure, we call it as Blob Storage or data lake. These are blob storage and data lake are two different things, but both are for the storage. In GCP, we have something called buckets. buckets. Okay. So these are the storage services offered by all the three major cloud providers. So depending on the organization, they might use, if they are using AWS, they will use S3. If they are on Azure, they'll use any of this. If they are on GCP, they'll use the buckets. Okay, the data has to be stored. Now the data is stored, and the process data will also be stored in the same storage, but within a different folder. Different folder structures will be maintained. The data will be stored over there. Now the extraction is done, transformation is done, loading is done, and in between wherever we are storing, that is also done. So now I told that after processing, we have to load it into a data warehouse. So again, this data warehouse, this is not on-premise servers. This is again a cloud. Snowflake, it is independent. It is supported on all three cloud providers. Supported with all three cloud providers. Okay. So it can be worked along with AWS or Azure or GCP. It will work with any of the cloud providers. It is a cloud data warehouse. Snowflake is a cloud data warehouse. Similarly, this is for storage, right? Let me write it here. Storage. It is in this place. Now, the database or the data warehouse. So similar to the storage, there will be specific data warehouses in each cloud provider. So if we take AWS, it will be Redshift. If we take Azure, we have Synapse. If we take GCP, we have BigQuery. So irrespective of all this, Snowflake can be worked with. It can work with any of the three cloud providers. Works with all three cloud providers. Okay. So for storing or the data warehousing or anything, you have to pay to that the cloud provider. Just like how you are paying for the Google Drive if you are out of memory. So similarly, you have to pay for this cloud providers on whichever you are using. Okay. So now the ETL process is done. We have taken care about the storage and also the data warehouse. So now we have built the pipelines. Assume that the ETL pipelines are already built. Now it has to be automated, right? Automation. So this pipeline has to run every hour or every day or every minute. We don't know based on our requirement. It has to be done. So automation can be done using different tools and technologies. So in Azure, we have something called Data Factory, Azure Data Factory. Okay, Azure Data Factory. Or there is another tool called Airflow. It is not a cloud related. Though it is a cloud-based technology, it is not relevant to any cloud. It is an independent tool, Airflow. So these two will be used for automation. There will be any number of tools apart from this also, but most of the organizations will be using either Azure Data Factory or the Airflow or also Databricks. Databricks is also Azure related, Azure Databricks. Okay. So any of these three can be used for automation. So we can schedule the pipeline, we can build the pipelines and schedule it based on our requirement. Okay, now we have done the automation as well. So now hope you have got some high picture, overall picture of what the data engineering is. Let me know if you have any questions still here. Okay, I'll take it as no questions. Automation is also done. Now let us see what tools and technologies we'll be covering here. So the basic thing or the first thing we have to know while we talk about the data is whenever the word data comes in, we have to be very good with SQL. So your daily routine, everyday work, it involves 60 to 70% of the SQL. 60 to 70%. It involves SQL. There are organizations where 90% will also be there only with the SQL. Okay. So you have to be very, very good at SQL. Now, the second thing is Python. Python, you don't have to be very proficient, but just that you have to know You have to know the basics and also able to understand the existing code. So every time you will not be setting up the sources from the scratch. The project will already be set up, but if there are any errors or if there are any issues or any new source coming in, then you have to work with Python to set up the extraction. So the basic understanding, I'm telling this during the project work. Let me write it here. Okay, for real time work. Okay, basic understanding of Python, basic understanding along with knowledge on libraries, because you have to know there will be new sources coming in, maybe APIs, SFTPs, emails, another new sources will come in. So you have to know which library you have to use. At least you can Google that. If you know there will be some packages, you can Google that. Hey, how to connect to Oracle with Python, or how to connect Snowflake with Python. So you have to know that. We will be able to connect to any source using the Python. Python is an open source. It is uh, free source. I mean open source, which means that we don't need any license. We can use that simply by installing it and running the programs. So nothing we have to pay. This is open source, very rich library. It can connect with any sources. So just the basic understanding along with the knowledge on libraries, it is required. So other than this, Snowflake. Snowflake is a data warehousing tool. So if you are good at SQL, if you are good at SQL, you will be able to work with either Snowflake or Redshift or anything, any database you will be able to work with, just as small changes here and there within the syntax. Otherwise, the query, everything remains the same. You have to know the features of Snowflake and the architecture of Snowflake. Okay. So these are the very, very, very important things in the data engineering world. These three tools and technologies are very, very, very important. I can say that. So now coming to the cloud part. Cloud, we will be covering the Azure because this is a Azure data engineering course. We'll be covering the Azure. So in Azure also, so there will be hundreds of services. In each cloud, there will be hundreds and hundreds of services. We don't require all of them because data engineers might be using storage related things, and DevOps might be using some other infrastructure tools like the virtual machines or the Docker, the containers, all of them. They will be using it. So some other roles, application development, they might be using some other services. So that cloud is built for various purposes, but we will learn whatever is required for our for our job. Okay, in Azure, coming to storage, we'll learn blob and ADLS. ADLS. ADLS stands for Azure Data Lake Storage. Azure Data Lake Storage. Okay, this is about the storage. And now the ATL pipelines. This transformation will also be done using the data factory. Extraction will also be done using the data factory. I Extraction or the transformation. Extraction and transformation. So just I'm telling you the use case, at what place, which technology is used. Later we'll cover in detail. Extraction or transformation that can be done using ADF, which means Azure Data Factory. So this is just a drag and drop UI. ADF is a drag and drop UI. It is not any coding. Coding is not required for this. If you are good at ADF, then also you will get a lot of opportunities, job opportunities. ADF, it is also used for automation. It is a one-stop solution to replace the coding. Okay, so let me write it. Extraction, transformation, automation. This can be done using the Azure Data Factory. Okay, and what is there? Yeah, in the cloud part, we'll be covering this. Azure, sorry, storage, blob storage, ADLS, ADF. Other than this, we'll be covering Azure Databricks, So Databricks, this comes into picture whenever we are writing PySpark code. This PySpark code has to be written on Databricks. Okay, whenever you are using big data, that has to be written on some platform. The PySpark has to be executed on some platform. That is what Azure Databricks. Databricks is the platform to write PySpark. Here we can write a Python also, Python or PySpark, any coding you can write it here. Okay, so this is about Azure Databricks also. We'll cover Azure Databricks, PySpark, and then let me write here PySpark as well. Python and PySpark. Uh, Snowflake we have already written. So these are the main tools and technologies we'll be covering in our course. Other than this, in AWS also, I'll be covering S3, which is just a simple storage service. Other than that, I'll just give you some overview of Redshift. Redshift is another data warehouse. Only these two will be covering in the AWS. Okay, AWS will be covering these two services. Redshift on a high level. Because if you're already good with any of the data warehousing concepts, then you will be able to work with other tools and technologies. I'll be covering Snowflake in detail from basic to advanced. So if you're good with this, you will be able to work with Synapse or Redshift or anything on a high level. Okay. So here even in the Azure also that I'll cover Synapse. Okay. Uh, Other than this, Airflow, as I have mentioned here in the automation part. So Airflow, I'll give you some brief idea. Airflow, brief idea. Okay, or the basic knowledge. This Airflow is very heavy coding. It involves lot of coding. Python, we have to extend. You have to be extensively good at Python in order to work with Airflow. So I'll not be covering Airflow. I'll just give you some basic knowledge or whatever is required for the interview point of view that I will let you know. So, but if you are good at Python and SQL, you will be able to work with Airflow without any hurdles. Okay. So this will be our course content. This will take around 2.5 to 3 months with the 1 hour daily. Okay. So this is all the real-time point of view. Now coming to the interviews or the opportunities. So if you carefully listen to our classes and practice whatever I suggest you in the classes, that will be more than enough to crack the interviews. I will assure you on that. If you carefully listen to the classes and follow whatever I suggest or whatever we are doing in the class, if you practice that, then you will be definitely able to clear the interviews. If you're just attending like that without any attention, then you'll not be able to crack that. Okay. So please pay attention to our classes. You will definitely crack the interviews. Even during the classes also, I'll tell you. So whatever is important for the interview point of view and whatever is important for the real-time work, I'll tell you both aspects. How it will be asked in the interview, how it will be used in the real time. I'll tell you both. So if you listen to our classes carefully and follow whatever we suggest, you will be definitely able to crack interviews and also able to handle your work without any difficulties. Okay, now coming to the job opportunities. So this will take almost about 3 months, 1 hour per day, okay, including weekends. Everything I will show you practically. I will install that, show it to you, building the pipelines, everything. Each of them, I will create the accounts, uh, show it in real time. You also have to create your own accounts and then try it. Okay. So now coming back regarding the job opportunities. So interviewers will ask you. So the tools and technologies, they might differ from one organization to another. They might differ, but the basic thing, whatever they expect is Python and SQL. Python and SQL. This is mandatory. Without this, you will not be able to attend any interviews. During the interviews, they will be asking you to write the code. Okay. This will be like heavy coding sessions. Interviews will be heavy coding sessions. Not all of them, but 70% of the interviews, coding rounds will be there. So I'll tell you during teaching Python or SQL, I'll tell you whatever is important for the interview and whatever is important for the real time. Okay, coding rounds will be there. So you have to be good with Python and SQL, both of them for the interview point of view. But in the real time, we might not use Python that much. But for interviews, I'll tell you some programs whichever are important, which will be asked frequently. Okay. Only with these two also, there will be lots and lots of roles. If you are able to write coding, Python and SQL, you'll get a job. Okay. Other than that, if you're good at only Snowflake, when I say only Snowflake, only ADF, or only by default, it involves SQL. Don't forget that by default, it involves SQL because without SQL, there is no data. So that is the default thing. I need not to specify every time SQL. So it is mandatory. With Snowflake and SQL, there will be lot of opportunities. Good number of opportunities. Okay, good number of opportunities because there will be roles like Snowflake developer or the SQL developer. These roles will be easy if you are familiar with Snowflake and the SQL. These roles will be easy compared to the Python and SQL one. Because Snowflake, it has all the features. You just have to write the SQL queries inside that, and you have to know the underlying architecture. Okay. So they'll be asking you this combination is definitely required. This is the basic thing expected out of anybody. Other than that, there will be some roles sometimes where they will ask only Snowflake and SQL. Okay. Other than this, even though you don't know Python, Python is optional. If you know ADF along with SQL, this is also a good opportunity. ADF, it is not a very in coding extensive. It is just a drag and drop options. You will be, if you create your free trial accounts along with me, practice it along with me, then you will be definitely able to crack the interviews with the ADF as well. Okay. With this combination also, you will get lots of opportunities. So if you take 10 organizations, out of which 6 will be using ADF. Okay. Remaining 2 or 3 will be using AWS, and just only one. That is also not for sure. Maybe that one company might be using GCP. GCP, out of my total experience, I have never seen the GCP user, just only one or two. Okay. So very rarely I have come across the GCP users. So if you are good with ADF or the SQL, it is also a very good opportunity. You will get calls for the interviews. So Airflow also they will ask you, but this is very robustic coding. It involves robustic coding, completely coding, Python code. It involves complete Python code. You have to be very good at advanced Python. So as we have ADF, why we have to choose this? While we have the ADF, right? ADF, it is user friendly. We can use it using drag and drop options. So even the non-coding people also will be able to understand it. But this Airflow, it is a coding robustic coding. It involves robustic coding. So lot of code is required for this. But if you are good with Python, you will be able to understand what is going on, how they are setting up. Slowly, you will be able to habituate with the Airflow as well. I will tell you the basics of this. Okay. So most of the job opportunities, they will be asking for Python, SQL, or the Snowflake, or some companies might ask everything. Okay. So along with this, Python, SQL, Snowflake, Databricks, and PySpark, this is an added advantage because nowadays the data volume is growing. The data is growing in size because everybody is on the internet, everybody is generating the data. So the data size is growing. That's why we are slowly moving to PySpark. If it is a big data, we'll use PySpark. So this is an added advantage. Okay. So basically what I suggest is first be perfect with SQL. I'll ask you only this: be perfect with SQL, and other things practice along with me. Whatever I teach you in the class, practice it along with me. And even after the classes also, you can practice yourself. So then you will be definitely able to crack interviews and work in the real time without any problem. So that is it. Let me know if you have any doubts or any questions. Feel free to ask any questions.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for this. The concept. So yeah, it was very really good, and then I'm very much interested. So I have one question regarding on this one. So how complex this SQL regarding that entry point? Um, can
SQL,
you?
I can suggest like how much good you are with the SQL, that that much will be the comfortable with your role. It is very good to know into the advanced concepts. There is no limit for that. If you are good at least the joins, you have to be very comfortable. The case statements, writing very complex queries, that is expected. This recursive CTs, recursive functions means in any language, maybe Python, C, or any language, recursive is little complex, but that is not expected. At least you have to have some idea. Other than that, you have to be very good with the joins and other concepts, the basic concepts.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one more
regarding
thing.
tracking that. Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing, like, do you teach us on a real-time project or just like kind of basics for every technology?
Uh, I will teach everything for the what is required for the project. During that explanation itself, I will tell you what is the use case for this in the real time. So after the end of the course, I will tell you one sample project. I will not implement it, but I will tell you with all the tools and technologies, whatever we have learned. With that, I will tell you one project.
Or in like how about like a resume preparation? Do you provide or like we have to make a resume
We will
and
help you on that. You can reach out to management. They will help you with that.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody, any questions?
Yeah, hi Prabhavati. So are
Yeah.
we going through this Databricks in advance?
Not very advanced. The basics and moderate level we can cover.
Okay.
Yeah.
In ADF, we had done everything. We can show the reporting tool as a Power BI, right? So we can go for
Yes.
Power BI. Is the tutorial also needed or not required for?
Not required because Power BI that comes into data analytics, not into engineering.
So for analytic purpose, we are using the Synapse, right? So on after Synapse,
Synapse also that is for data warehousing, not for the analytics.
okay,
Because
sure.
data engineering role ends where the data is ready to use by the analytics.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Anybody else?
Yeah, hi, Prabhat. Regarding that cracking the interview point of view, so we should be very yeah, is at 60 to 70% of the SQL and remaining that no, in the Python. So both
Yes.
we should be yeah perfect.
Python not required to be perfect. That just the basic understanding is enough. But for interviews, I'll give you some expected questions. So if you are good at that, you will be able to crack that.
Okay, very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, anybody, let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we are good to close.
Yeah, I have one more question, Prabhati.
Yes,
Like,
please.
so regarding that experience point of view, if you have the person have 15 years of IT experience and having the relevant to this, the Python, the data engineering 5 years should be enough, yeah, Prabhati.
Okay, you have total 15 years.
Yeah,
You are planning like last 5 or 7 years into the data engineering, is it?
correct, correct.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, cool. Okay,
Yeah.
thank
Okay, if you don't have any questions, feel free to drop off. That's all for today.
Yeah, thank you very much for the class.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you.